Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of the Up As Not Jump Patreon podcast. I hope you're all doing very well on this dark and stormy Sunday. Wherever you are in America it might still be bright, but here it's very, as I said, dark and stormy, like I just said before. What I'm going to start this episode off with is a sort of events of the week. Because each week, you know, we all live and events occur, and I thought I would do a summary of the most interesting things that have happened in my week, but not just like it's not about me. It's about stuff that would be remotely interesting. So I've started doing the live action recording. So the stuff with me in for the next video, which is the Steam VR Part 2 video. And I usually do that a couple of days before the video comes out. I do all the recording, and it forces me to kind of do it in a mad panic, which is what gives it that sort of ridiculous, over the top energy, because I am just generally a bit rushed, so it kind of translates quite well into the video. And so I broke out Jim Carrey, my cardboard cutout, and I've thrown him across the room. I've broken a light, which you'll see in the video, because there's a thing where I have to like fight with him, and I just end up throwing him and all this cool stuff, but I don't want to give too much away. But I've been using him, and so I was hanging out with a lot of people. Seem to think I do Sid's voice acting myself, which I am a terrible actor. I can't do anything with my voice. My voice is very much, which is why it's mostly me screaming in the video, because that's the extent in which my voice acting goes, to normal audio to very, very loud audio. So I have a voice actor that gives like a flat rate per video that he helps me with, because he doesn't have a huge part, Sid, in any videos. But we went out we basically went on a pub crawl, me and him, and because he's part of my family. And I was telling him about the cutout of Jim Carrey, and he does the most incredible Jack Nicholson impression. And so I'm going to buy a Jack Nicholson cardboard cutout, a life-size one. We found the one we want, and we're going to introduce a new character as well as Sid, because Jim Carrey doesn't say anything in the video. He's just there for the laughs. But my cousin could do a Jack Nicholson character, so we could have Sid and Jack Nicholson having a good time, and then maybe like Jack Nicholson's voice could turn into Sid's voice, because it's the same voice actor during the video. So that's gonna be loads of fun. So we're working on that. I was also with his dad, who is my uncle, and me and him are working on a song. We're producing, because Emma, my fiance, is a musician. She's a percussionist. She knows a bunch of musicians. We're getting a couple together, and we're doing the backing track, and then he's going to sing, because he's a country and western singer. He does a lot of Elvis, and we're going to do a cover of a certain song that relates to Fallout, which you'll get to see. It will be hopefully done with the Fallout 76 video. If not, I'm just going to have to put it in a different video, which would be really out of place, so I'm really hoping we get it done in time. But we have to like book a recording studio and stuff. And so that's all your contribution. There is no way I'd have been able to afford to get some musicians and some recording studios and pay for a singer and all that stuff. So thank you again. It's more you're helping me improve the videos, which is what it's all about. It's really, really great. And so that's working in the background as well, which is really fun. And just as a side note, not everyone will be interested in the t-shirts that I'm making, but if you are, I'm certain I'll be able to get a Patreon discount code. It may be that you get more off depending on how much you're donating, but I'm probably going to avoid that and just hopefully get like a 10 or 20% off. So that's just so you know. But they're in the works and should be out by the end of November as well, which will be great. So everything's sort of coming to a finalization at the release of the Fallout 76 video, which means it's just there's so much going on, but there's a lot of cool stuff. As well as that, in the video, you have to look very, very closely in the next video, the Steam VR one, because while I was away, I went to like a cabin for a couple of days to relax before Fallout 76 came out, because I knew it would be a huge amount of work. And I got very drunk, because we were in the middle of the countryside, just chilling. So all we did was sort of just watch TV and drink and play Mario Party 4 and kill each other. And we had like a log burner, and I was the one in charge of the fire, and I accidentally burnt off my fringe. But you can't. So I've lost, a few centimeters of hair off the whole fringe, but I sort of like tried to blend it so you can't tell. So look very closely at my fringe and see if you can see the fact that most of it's missing. But have a look and see what you can discover. It's just more shit. Oh, the smell was awful. And that's it really. The other thing I'm doing for the new video is I have to get the only technical bit that I'm having trouble with recording is that I can't. Sid's got to scratch me. I want him to like attack me and basically paw at me. And working with cats is not easy. I would much rather work with a dog. But so we're gonna get a laser pointer and point it at my leg and see if we can get him to scratch me. So that's the only real technical difficulty I'm having at the minute, because I have no idea how I'm gonna control him to do what I want. But there you go. So there's an update of everything that's going on. There isn't really much else to say. There's a lot of news about Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm not going to play it just because it's that or Fallout 76, and then by the time I've made the Red Dead video, if I made one, you know, the game's going to have been out for 2 months, and I just don't see the point. I would rather just keep doing some VR games, and because that's what, you know, we're all used to and people seem to like, so we're just going to stick with that. And that's it, really. Nothing else to say. That's pretty much everything that's happened this week. So, on to questions. And the first person that I would like to answer a question for, or of, is Alec Davies. And I can't remember the last question I answered, and I don't think I answered this one. If I have, I'm really sorry. And it's, what is the worst big VR game you've played, in your opinion? And I'm just opening up my Steam. I meant to check this one. I can tell you the best one, and that's... Oh god, here we go, just doing it all on the fly. So let's see. To be perfectly honest, making a bad VR game is quite difficult, because as long as, like, if the graphics are good, it really doesn't, you know, you can get quite into it. I find, at least. I really enjoy all of them. There are bad ones, like in the video, the Steam VR video I last made, the Sanguo Warriors VR. You know, I made it look, you know, it was okay, but it's, you know, it's a bit... If it came out on the Xbox, or was 15 quid as a 2D game, you know, it's not good. But because it's in VR and it has the fighting mechanics, you know, it's worth a try. It's quite fun. There's not much, you know, I've never really played a game like that before. So it's, you know, it's worth it, you know, the samurai game I played. There is a game that I have one in mind, but I've played a game called Star Baron, and it's bad, and I keep meaning to... I've written this, the script has been written for 2 months, and I keep meaning to put it into the Steam VR review videos. It's not in the next one either, because it just doesn't quite fit into the video. So there's that one, but no one's played that one. So I think the worst one I've played is that Sanguo Warriors VR one. No, I know, it's well, it's all over the place. Doom VFR. So Doom has been made, the newest Bethesda Doom game was made into a VR port. And that was just fucking awful. I really did not like that. But I played it on the day of release, and Bethesda do that, you know, that thing, you know, if you've seen my Fallout 4 VR review, they just release a load of garbage and then try and fix it in the coming weeks. Because I think they're given quite tight deadlines in Bethesda, but then Doom is made by a different subsidiary to Fallout 4 VR. They're different parts of a different company. So I have no idea why they were both so bad on launch day. And I just kind of gave up. So it's sitting there in my Steam library. I can see it now. And I've never played it since it came out. But the day it came out, it was garbage. And it was the same thing as Fallout 4 VR. The VR effects were really bad. Like, everything was really fuzzy because they hadn't properly done the resolution yet. It was all, you had to, like, twiddle it with yourself. And I just couldn't be bothered, so I just gave up. So that was the worst one. You know, because that's a proper game. And it was just... The moving around made me sick. The way the guns worked were really, really not very fun at all. Because it's quite, you know, it's quite... I don't know if it's hard to get it right or not. You know, like, you see me using guns in games, or if you've played VR, aiming them is quite easy because you're holding them. Even though it's easy to miss because I don't know how to aim a gun, you know, it still works as you would expect because the tracking of the controllers is so good. But none of that worked either, so fuck knows what they did with that. So that was the worst VR game I've played. And it says, the rest of the question is, what was the best part of the worst VR game? That had no redeeming features whatsoever. So I would say the best part of the samurai game I played, Sanguo Warriors, the first game I played in the last video I did, the best part of that was how the shields worked. I hadn't really played a game with shields yet. Like, if you get attacked by someone, you hold up a shield and then it blocks it. You know, you can really get into that. It's unfortunate that obviously there's no feedback, so you don't, like, swing a sword and you're tired. you know, you can just swing, swing, swing. So those games always have that issue that you have to kind of behave yourself. You know, you've got to like pretend you're fighting like in real life. But the shields and the swords can block attacks that you're being attacked by, and you know, and you're using your own hands. So that's really, really fun. And that's it, really. I haven't really had much else to say. And then someone else asked. Oh no, that wasn't the question. They said, what is the worst big VR game you've played? They didn't ask for the best part. But either way, I've answered the question. Richard Valcourt asks me, what is the single worst thing about your favorite game? So not necessarily about VR. So I have quite a few favorite games. I would like to do a video of like the top 5 games I've played each year or something and start introducing that, but it takes me so long to make a video, I don't know if I'll ever do that. So, the worst thing about my favorite game. So, I have a few favorite games. I'll pick one that most people will have played, like something quite recent. So I could talk about Dark Souls as being my favorite, or yeah, I'd say Dark Souls. I really, really do like Dark Souls. And the worst thing about that is the shield system. I feel like that game, and this is a huge thing that everyone talks about, and I got involved from watching a few videos, and I didn't even know about any of this, is that shields like ruin the gameplay in Dark Souls 1 and 2. And a lot of, you know, if you want to use a shield, that's absolutely fine. But I went into Dark Souls 3 knowing that apparently 1 and 2, like, because this was after I played 1 and 2, I heard shields ruin them. And so I played 3 without a shield from the very, very start. And it's so much more fun, and it's so much more like engaging. It's more difficult to start, but then actually you find you get so good at dodging and timing everything because you have to. You actually get a lot better at the game. So the challenge is a lot more fair. You're not just sort of like absorbing damage and then attacking and then absorbing damage and attacking with your shield. You're staying back, attacking at the right time, jumping back, moving to the side. And it really does improve the game. And I did find by the end of Dark Souls 1 I was getting bored because I had 100% shield and I just blocked everything and then attacked and then blocked and attacked, and there was no strategy anymore. And it was the same in 2. 2 I found very, very easy because I had mastered that block attack strategy and I never had any trouble completing it. You know, people say like Ornstein and Smo were really difficult, or Smough, and I didn't have any trouble with them at all because I just gotten so good at blocking and running. Whereas now, without the shield, the game's way better. Well, at least 3 is. I'm going to go back and play 1 and 2 again without focusing on a shield build and see how it is. I think it'd be really fun. It's the same with Bloodborne, which I haven't played, but there are no shields in the whole game, and everyone says that that's the best one, partly for that reason. So it's all very interesting. It's a very interesting thing. I think the first half of Dark Souls 1 is more fun because you don't have a shield that can absorb all the damage, so you still have to be careful. And then later on, there are shields that will block all damage, and then it just kind of doesn't necessarily break the game. And a lot of people, you know, might not be able to, because it is very hard, Dark Souls. And this isn't me saying I'm amazing. It's just some people wouldn't be able to play without a shield because the game's too hard, and that's perfectly fine as well. I'm not saying, you know, you're not playing wrong if you can't play the game the other way that you're supposed, you know, that's available. So, you know, it's down to the person. But personally, for me, I did find that shields did kind of simplify things a bit too much. There you are. And Chris Talbot asked, what is the best thing about my most hated game? And I don't really hate Fallout 4 as much as I say I do. I don't know why like, the reason I say Fallout 4 is my least favorite game is just because I played it so fucking much for making Machinima, so I never kind of forgot how, because it has a lot of upsides. Well, this is the question, the best thing about my most hated game. I'll pick Fallout 4 just because it makes for a more interesting conversation, because I'm sure all of you have played it. The reason it's my most hated game is probably because I made Machinima so much, you know, we're talking 4,000 to 5,000 hours of non-stop playing, because I just wanted my YouTube channel to take off. So I was just like, if I never stop making Machinima, maybe eventually it will happen. And so that game is fine. It's just I didn't like the story. I felt like the problem with it in the whole synth thing, I felt like had already been adequately explored in previous games, mostly Fallout 3. There's a whole quest line in Rivet City relating to you finding a synth and choosing whether or not you believe synths, fucking word, are humans or machines, and whether or not they have rights, and whether or not they need to be turned into their respective build, the people who made them. Do they own them if they made them? And that whole question, I don't think anyone really argued, no one, not many people, I don't think, would believe that a creation that has artificial intelligence equal to that of a human considers itself a living thing and is capable of learning and making its own decisions is anyone's property. I don't think anyone really feels that way anymore. I'm sure there are a few people, but I doubt that many do. So the argument's closed. We've done all this. We've achieved what we wanted to. There was a whole quest line related to it. It had a very nice arc. It ended very well. It was very fun. You got a cool upgrade depending on your choices. I liked it. It was very memorable, and I've never really forgotten it. Oh, Fallout 4. Oh, it's the same story, same thing, but now instead of being one quest, it's the entire game. So that annoyed me. But that's not enough to make something the worst game ever, and it isn't. But just because I played it so much, I never got over that. It just kind of went looping in my head how much I hated the fucking story and how shoehorned in it was, because you don't want to fucking look after your son. You want to go and enjoy the wasteland, but it's such a fucking captivating thing. Your child has been stolen. Well, I'm going to move heaven and earth to find them. I'm not going to go and fucking explore the bowling alley for 6 hours like I wanted to. So anyway, getting off topic. The reason it's the best thing about Fallout 4 is the crafting. I think, pure and simple, I think the crafting is fucking brilliant. The way you go and look for things and you break them down and you use them to upgrade your current weapons and armor, it's really, really good. It's very well implemented. It's dynamic. It's intuitive. It's very clever because the point of the game is exploration, even though they made it about finding your son. The main point of the game should have been exploration. Exploring was the point, and doing that allowed you to upgrade your weapons and armor. It became an integral part of the gameplay. Everyone's already discussed this before, and I think that's very clever. Very well done. Very complex. A lot of time went into all of that, you can tell. And it's really organic as well. You upgrade a weapon and you immediately see on your weapon your upgrade. It's fucking brilliant. So no problems with that at all. My main issue was that, unfortunately, the story, a large part of the game's story wasn't very well thought out, I thought. So there you go. Eventually I'll run out of things to say about Fallout 4 and I will stop going on and on and on. Okay, so I'm just checking the time, do not mind me. So the next question I have is from Joseph Cowlishaw. Joseph Cowlishaw. And he says, what faction do you prefer the most on the Fallout series? So, sorry, I'm talking about Fallout again. My favorite faction is House. Is House a faction from New Vegas? He was my favorite. He's my favorite character in all of Fallout, I believe. I really, really do like House. Mr. House, that's his name. Yeah, I was thinking of Hugh Laurie. I was getting confused. I really like him, but he doesn't really have a faction. I mean, he's got the Guardtron. They're not Protectortrons. He's got the robots, the Securitrons. But I don't really think they're a faction as such. I don't think people really consider them as one. Because I really like Victor, the cowboy that pulls you out of your grave. He's really, really interesting and funny. And he has a lot of foreshadowing. He's always around in the background, like watching you and all that sort of stuff. So, not really. I think, the best faction is the Legion, simply because they're very well thought out. They aren't just mindless, killers. They're given a very, very well thought out sort of philosophy and goal. What they're trying to do. You can really see why they believe it's the right way to go. When you talk to Caesar, he explains that he's trying, it's a very, you could basically break it down to the simplest form is what's the word? Diplomacy has failed, so we need to try communism, not communism, dictatorships instead. It's the same. That was all he's really saying, but he does it in a really sort of compelling and well thought out way, and the writers gave it a lot of attention because it was a very important part of the game. So simply for that reason, raiders, it's just chaos. So there's not anything too interesting about them. They're actually a lot more interesting in New Vegas again because all the leaders are given quite a lot of personality of each faction of the raider teams in New Vegas. So you actually learn a lot about them and what they are looking for and what they want. So you actually identify with them a bit more. Everyone in Fallout New Vegas is given motive and backstory and all of this sort of stuff, which is why I like the factions in that game more. So go with the Legion, just because they've got a more interesting they have a very intense backstory that's very well thought out. So they're very interesting to sort of interact with. The NCR are very interesting as well. It's just the entire dynamic in New Vegas is fucking incredible because you've got the NCR who are human but flawed, and then you've got the Legion who are evil but perfect. They don't make mistakes very easily. They're very very well controlled. They're very what's the word? They're very they do as they're told. The factions are very well controlled and everyone is very well sort of organized, whereas the NCR is all over the place. So you've kind of got this man-machine fight going on, but then you've got House, who is a man and a machine. So he's sort of the best of both of these factions. So you can see him as being the best option for that reasons. But then but then he's a dictatorship as well, and it's just but he's also a computer. So it has this huge sort of interweb of personalities and factions that all complement each other. It's like Batman and the Joker and Scarecrow. They all complement each other because they all personify a different part of Batman's personality. And it's the same idea in New Vegas. All of these factions have advantages and disadvantages that all play off of each other in a very interesting way. And so it's not just because they're well thought out, it's that they all link up really, really well. And each of them has a flaw, but also a strength that you can identify with. It's fucking brilliant. There you go. God, I should have written all this down and put it into a video. So there you go. I just love it. I love it all. So that, when I eventually review the Fallout series properly, that's the sort of thing I'm going to say. So there you go. Jesus, I went on about that. Anyway, so Felix James Knight asks, the way you're able to nail your scripts and boil everything down so perfectly and concisely in your videos is something that I find really mind-blowing. Thank you very much. I'm a lot more concise in those videos than I am here. Have you always been into writing and or creative writing, or is it just something you discovered you were good at when it came to writing these type of videos? Also, do you do any extra writing outside of these scripts? So very, very kind of you, Felix. Thank you so much for all the kind words. It's very nice of you to say that I'm good at writing. I don't think my writing is very good. I think I put a lot of effort into the delivery, which I think makes it seem like the writing is better, because I read it and I just use the word really and a lot, and just be like, really. And I also say seriously a lot. I start a lot of sentences with seriously. I've started to notice it. So maybe I'll improve when I stop doing this. But no, I'm not a writer, because I'm a scientist. We don't do a lot of writing. Since I was, 12 or 13, I'd never written anything really. Because, there's no essay questions or long answers in science. It's very much, most of your answers are basically either a drawing or a couple of words. A good scientific answer is a paragraph. Scientists are meant to be concise and factual, so it doesn't really lend itself to creative writing. I don't know whether or not I like writing. I wouldn't ever want to do writing as a living. I don't understand people who want to do that, but that's just because I don't like it. I actually spoke to... There's a movie that just came out in the UK called The Festival, which is actually very critically acclaimed. I looked it up after I spoke to this person, and it got 9 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes, or 90% or whatever. There's also a program called Fresh Meat in the UK. And I went to a party and the guy who wrote the Fresh Meat and the festival was there, and I ended up speaking to him a long time about like creative writing. And he does it obviously for a living. And I don't think it's just, you just sit down and then you just have to write until you're finished, and then you do that the next day. And I don't get any enjoyment out of it whatsoever. I've managed to boil down writing my scripts into a day. I do it all in a day. I do it in one caffeine-fueled fucking coffee hell day of just literally just sitting and drinking pint after pint of coffee because it makes me so hyped up that it forces me to sort of write. So, so it's very nice of you to say that I'm good. When you say that they're concise, it's probably just because I want to get it out of the way as quickly as possible, so I just get straight to the facts. It might be that. I don't hate it as much anymore. I find a little bit of enjoyment out of it now because I don't stretch out the writing too much. I just sort of enjoy it for the time I do it, and then if the script's not done, I just sort of write whatever comes to mind and get it out of the way. So I don't do any creative writing. I've never really done, before I started making these videos, I'd never done anything creative. So it just goes to show you can kind of learn how to be creative, I guess, because I taught myself vaguely how to be creative because I'd only ever done science. I'd only ever written scientific reports and, you know, worked in a lab and worked in an office, mostly in an office. I'd worked in an office for like 3 or 4 years, and then I started doing this, and I'd never done much creative stuff. So yeah, you can pick it up, no problem at all. I don't think it's any, I think it just takes time, this sort of stuff. It's like with Stephen King says, like, you know, everyone's a good writer, they just have to get the bad works out of the way first. And I think that's definitely true. Like, if you never give up at something, it's like drawing or juggling or directing or writing or editing. If you just put the time in, you really can get good at anything, I'm sure of it. And that's it, really. I think that's the main thing. Because, you know, like with Fallout 4, I put like 5,000 hours into making machinimas, effectively. And that was all, you know, directing, recording, editing. It was a lot of practice. And so when I started doing the Nightmare videos, I actually found it quite easy to sort of shift those skills that I'd picked up while doing that. So it just takes time. That's my general advice. Okay, we've got 3 minutes left. We can answer one more question. Let's do it. Oh, and it's a biggie. It's another Fallout question. Oh my god. Sarah Norcus asks, how did you come to choosing Fallout and VR games as your main video choice? So my neighbor, who, well, basically, when I first met him, I went around his house and he had a VR headset, and I was like, oh god, one of those. I'm not interested in that at all. Dead technology. Fucking, what the hell was I thinking? I was just like, well, actually, what I used to think was the technology isn't there yet. You know, it's going to be like early LCD screens. You know, they were really, well, early TVs. You know, they were fuzzy. You're still getting used to the technology. But then I played the Vive, and I played a game called Space Pirate Simulator, which I still play all the time. One of my favorite games of all time, and I will eventually get around to reviewing it, so I can give you some information about it. It's just like a shooting game where you shoot robots. I've mentioned it a few times in videos, and it was fucking mind-blowing. I'd never had so much fun playing a game. I immediately was just like, I'm having fun, you know, just like the most fun. and my fiance played it, who doesn't like games. She was having the time of her life, and I was just like, this is incredible, I have to get this. So at the time I was making Machinima, so I wasn't making any money because they don't make much money. So I was actually paying off my fiance's engagement ring at the time, and I said to my mum, can you finish making the repayments? I want to buy VR, and then I will give you the money back after I've made the money back. So my mum was very, very kind and finished paying the ring. I bought VR, but then obviously the next few weeks later I made my Fallout 4 VR video, and I managed to, you know, and then that's when I sort of broke through. So I was able to reimburse her, thank God, because I had no money at the time. I was like scraping money as a teacher at the time. So I was very lucky to buy it when I did. So that's why I did VR games, just because second I put that Vive on, I was completely enthralled by the games. And in a few years, when VR headsets are better, the resolution of them improves, and they use better screens and they weigh less. I don't know how I think it's just going to be the most amazing thing, and the price will come down and people will start playing it. And it's going to be like Ready Player One. I think everyone's going to get one, and I think it's going to take over the world. I just want the world to, to not blow up before VR technology takes off, because it's going to be fucking great. And I'm going to finish the rest of the question next time because we are out of time. And I'll say why I did Fallout as my main video choice. And I think that answers the question. Why did I choose VR games? Yeah, it was just all encompassing. And there was a game there was one thing I wanted to say. There's a game I was playing recently, Elite Dangerous. I think if the VR technology comes across to that, it does start to become quite difficult to tell the difference between real life and the game, because I think the resolution still isn't quite there yet. But once it does, because I was getting some footage in Elite Dangerous today, and that game is just fucking incredible. It is the most convincing. It's the closest you can get to flying through space, and I love space, and it's just like, I'm just enthralled by it, and I'm terrified. It's so immersive, and it's so beautiful, and I just can't fucking wait, and I want it to happen. I want new technology and to be cheaper so we could all have it and talk about how great it is. So anyway, there we go. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you again for being a patron, because it is allowing me to take the videos to a new level that I wouldn't have been able to without you, and it's really exciting to be able to do these things that I'm doing, as well as buying numerous cardboard cutouts of people. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the song that I'm working on. I really hope it comes out well, because I'm gonna do like I did in the Skyrim video, I did like a montage to like the Morrowind music. I showed like clips from Skyrim and The Witcher. I want to do the same thing with this song that I'm producing, so there's no copyright issues. So there we go. Thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday, and I will see you very, very soon on Thursday with a new video. Should be done. And I think it's going to be quite good, because I've cut out all the bad jokes. In the last video, I kind of left them in because I wanted to see what people thought. So yeah.